You're watching Talk with Audrey. Welcome back. Skin cancer remains the most common cancer in the United States despite preventative sun care measures like sunscreen use and UV protective clothing. Fortunately, there are scientific advances that have helped to bring hope to patients facing advanced melanoma. My guests today are Dr. Jason Luke, Director of the Cancer Immunotherapeutic Center at the UPMC Hillman Cancer Center, and Kylie, LiPira, CEO of the Melanoma Research Foundation. And we're going to talk about a first-of-its-kind dual immunotherapy treatment for advanced melanoma patients. Welcome to both of you.
Well, thanks so much for having us.
So let's first talk about melanoma. Dr. Luke, what's the risk and who's at risk?
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. So again, Jason Luke, I'm a medical doctor who takes care of patients with melanoma, also a researcher and consultant for companies like Bristol Myers Squibb. And so when we talk about melanoma, it's commonly understood that melanoma is a form of skin cancer that can be actually quite dangerous. So we know that melanoma and other skin cancers are predominantly caused by sun exposure, the radiation that comes from the sun. So about 70,000 people per year are diagnosed with melanoma, but the vast majority of them can be cured with a simple procedure to remove the melanoma from the skin. Unfortunately, about 8,000 to 10,000 people per year in the United States will actually have the melanoma spread in the body and develop what's called metastatic melanoma. And in that scenario, then we need to think about how to try to control the melanoma with medicines. And in that regard, we've had a major improvement in our understanding of the immunology that regulates our body's response to cancer over the past 10 to 15 years, such that the use of immune therapies has actually become the sort of bedrock treatment approach for most patients with melanoma. And it's in that context then that we have the development of this new dual immunotherapy Opdualag that'll be very exciting to discuss.
Well, tell us more about Opdualag and how it might help people with advanced melanoma.
Yeah, so building on sort of fundamental science understanding that we now know that most patients with melanoma actually have mounted an immune response against the cancer. And what I mean by that is literally if you cut the cancer out, you can find immune cells there. But obviously then they haven't actually done their job and killed the cancer. So why is that? Well, it turns out there are normal proteins in the body that the cancer can kind of get turned on in an unusual way that can limit the immune cells from killing the cancer. And we call these checkpoint proteins. So Opdualag, as a dual immunotherapy, brings together two medicines that can block these proteins and release the immune system. And the proteins have names like PD-1 and LAG-3, which aren't so important to remember, but the general concept is that the medicine that we give can release the immune cells that have already gone after the cancer, but been put in sort of a suspended animation. And in a clinical trial, we observed that Opdualag more than doubled the amount of time that we could control cancer for the average patient in the trial. And we know that some patients can even have more outstanding long-term control of cancer. Again, this is all despite the fact that it has spread in the body. Now, no cancer treatment has no side effects, and it's very important that any patient and their caregivers discuss all the available options, the pros and cons with their treatment team so they can really make the best decision for them.
And so it manages the cancer, treats the cancer, but it's not a cure.
Yeah, we like to be very cautious about using certain terms when we're talking about managing cancer. I can tell you in my practice, I have patients who have gotten immunotherapy who are doing very well out many years after they got the treatment. But we try not to talk about cure in so much because we don't want to set expectations in an abnormal way. We're very excited about these treatments, and the potential does exist that some patients may be able to get their cancer under control for an undefined period of time. But it's a little bit of a wait and see, and we have to treat each patient as an individual and do what's best for them depending on how the treatment goes.
Understood. So this is an important advancement for patients. Kylie, talk about the Melanoma Research Foundation, the work that you do, and what you hear from patients with advanced melanoma.
Absolutely. Well, Audrey, thank you for having us on, especially during Melanoma Awareness Month, which is such a critical time to create awareness about melanoma and ways that people can prevent it. It is one of those cancers that can be prevented in many cases, and we can't say that a lot about other cancers, so that's really important. Here at the Melanoma Research Foundation, we have a campaign this month, which is called #GetNaked, which encourages people to check their own skin and see a board-certified dermatologist for their annual skin exam. So the MRF, which we're known by, is a national nonprofit organization that's dedicated to accelerating medical research while educating to and advocating for the melanoma community. And we are supported by companies like BMS and many others who support our mission. So when we hear of new approved treatments that are available for our patient community, we're really excited. Many people don't know, but there are 1.3 million Americans living with melanoma right now, and the diagnosis rates are going up. We know that many people did not get their skin checked because of COVID. They didn't want to go into a doctor's office, and they may have missed their skin exam because of it. And with some global data that the MRF recently acquired, we learned that there are probably 33,000 missed melanomas across the United States. And that's a big number, especially when we're talking about a cancer that is preventable and very curable if caught early. For those patients that see Dr. Luke, this new treatment option brings about a lot of hope. You know, a lot of people are not responding to the approved treatments available. So to have the potential for a new treatment is really exciting for the melanoma community who are living with advanced melanoma.
And it's important for people to protect themselves. We talk about the rise of skin cancer, even though people are using sunscreen and UV protected clothing, because summer's right around the corner and there are people who are going to be out there baking in the sun and thinking nothing of it. Dr. Luke, can you sound the alarm?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Kylie talked about, so the first thing in melanoma is prevention. And the times have really changed from the old days with the, white sunblock on the nose. Sunscreen's cool now. And so, finding the one that works for you and applying it regularly is really the key. So we need to apply sunscreen about once an hour, especially when we're out in a place that's hot or like around the beach. And I personally really like the sun protective clothing. So I like the UV protective shirts and this kind of thing. So there are many different ways that people can go about protecting themselves. And really it's just remembering it before you go out. And I'll put a particular plug in for little children. So little kids in the family, a lot of the sun damage that is cumulative over the course of our lives happens when kids are real little. And so we should all think of this and we should all take care, but think about your family members and remind them. And you don't have to give them a hard time per se, but there are a lot of different ways to be safe in the sun now. And I would really advocate, have fun outside, but just think about it before you go.
And as always, I want to remind everyone to check with their doctor and healthcare provider and go get those checkups so that the doctor can take a look at your whole body to see what you don't see and recognize what you might not. Where can we go for more information about Abdul-Ag and for information about the Melanoma Research Foundation?
Absolutely. Two great questions. So in terms of the treatment that Dr. Luke was describing, you can go to optilag.com to learn more about that. And again, for the Melanoma Research Foundation, please visit melanoma.org. We have a lot of great resources on our website, not only for the general public on prevention and some of the great tips that Dr. Luke shared, but also for patients going through treatment. So you can visit us at melanoma.org.
All right, everyone, be safe out there. The sun feels great, but you've got to protect yourself. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.